Welcome to the Leader Impact Podcast. We are a community of leaders with a network in over 350 cities around the world dedicated to optimizing our personal, professional, and spiritual lives to have impact. This show is where we have a chance to listen and engage with leaders who are living this out. We love talking with leaders, so if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions to make this show even better, please let us know. Best way to stay connected in Canada is through our newsletter at leaderimpact.ca or on social at LeaderImpact. And if you're listening from outside of Canada, anywhere else in the world, check out our website at leaderimpact.com. I'm your host, Lisa Peters, and our guest today is Wale Adebogun. Is that right, Wale?
That's good. That's good. Great job.
All right. Wale is an author, speaker, and award-winning area manager at a leading bank in Canada. With over 2 decades of leadership experience, Wale is passionate about helping the next generation of leaders grow and thrive. He's the author of The Power of Strategic Relationships, 7 Champions Who Accelerate Young Professionals' Careers. And Wale also holds a master's in leadership from the University of Regina. Wale also co-founded the Money and Marriage Conference with his wife, Elizabeth. And when he's not mentoring or speaking, he enjoys volunteering, playing table tennis, and spending time with his twin daughters. Welcome to the show, Wale.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. Such a great honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm sure many people don't know, but I got the opportunity to meet Wale, and we had a 5-minute interview on my TV show, and it was like, whoa, this is not enough. So I'm very happy.
That was a great time.
Very happy that you came. Yeah. So on the LeaderImpact podcast, we love hearing about your professional story. More importantly, we sort of love hearing those pivot points of how you got from where you are to where you got today. So if you can share a little bit of that.
Yes, again, thank you, Lisa, and thank you for the great work that you're doing. I got a chance to listen to some of the past episode. It was really good. So really proud of you, what you and your team are doing. Well done. When I think about myself, my journey really started back in Nigeria, which is where I'm originally from and where I was born. And my journey started after university. I began a career as a teacher and a small business owner. And prior to that, and maybe this is something I like to have fun with sometimes, I like to say that I started my career at 8 years old as a salesperson because I worked for my mom and dad. You know, they had a shop there. And I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good at sales, actually, and had a lot of fun. Of course, the only sad days I had is when I couldn't get into play soccer with my friends. Right. And so this way, but things changed when I turned 12 because my dad unfortunately passed away. And so that changed everything for us as a family. It meant that I needed to grow up so fast. And in my teenage years, I ended up working for an NGO while I was still going to school. So a Sunday school teacher at the time was the head of this NGO that was helping people who were living with HIV and AIDS. And so I was working there part-time, going to school. And then that really gave me a good foundation as well. And then I went off from there to the university. And when I got to the university, I was very involved in student leadership. Again, that gave me a really good, solid foundation as well. And then after I graduated, then I thought for a year and did a little small business as well. And then at 24 years old, I made the big move. I moved to Canada. And so I moved straight here to Regina. I haven't gone anywhere else since, right? So, and moving to Regina had its own challenges too, right? So new country, new culture, trying to figure out a lot of things. And one of the things that stands out to me, I remember approaching one of my mentors and just saying, hey, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. And he recommended, joining a bank, right? I'm like, what? Joining a bank? And I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And then, of course, he provided some guidance. And fast forward is one of the best decisions that I ever made, right? Listening to somebody who was able to guide and advise me. And as I look at where I am right now, of course, in a community manager role, an area manager role, looking after, 6 of the branches of the bank that I work for. and 60, 65 employees that I get to work with and do great things for our clients and do great things with the team, the leadership team that I work with as well. It's been such a pleasure getting to do that. So again, when I think about my journey just from a kid to how that has evolved and some of the values and some of the things that shaped me growing up as well to where I am today, it's been quite a journey, and I really love adding value to people, whether that's through coaching, mentoring, or helping people along the way.
I find it interesting that you moved from Nigeria to Saskatchewan. Did you bring a winter coat? Because that
Well,
would have been a
I
shock.
landed in March. I think it was March 29th. I was there, I landed. So it was spring when I landed. And of course, it was a bit of a cultural shock to me. I had this view of Canada, like Canada is a very good country and all of that. And so as my plane was landing, at the Calgary airport, before we made the connection to Regina, I was like, why don't they grow green grass here in Canada? What's going I had no idea about the seasons, right? That, it was spring and then it would take a while for it to grow up. Thankfully, I didn't say a word. I was just thinking in my mind. And later on, I found out that, oh, they do have green grass here. You just have to wait till summer to really see it. So that was one of my cultural shock that I had at first.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know a lot of your before you got to Canada, so that's exciting to hear. We talk about best principles of success, and I'm wondering if you have one and a story that illustrates that.
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. The decision is to tell which story now and what story, because I'm quite a storyteller. I like telling a lot of stories, but I think the principle I'm gonna put out there today is that no one truly succeeds alone, right? And the quality of your relationship really determines the quality of your life. And I mentioned earlier about that Sunday school teacher, right? And how the relationship that I had as a Sunday school kid, let him give me an opportunity to work with his NGO. And that really exposed me to some of the things I needed as a teenager to help me elevate, myself in life. But also, as I look at my career as well, I remember my first few years in banking. I was one of those people that believed so much in the fact that my work would speak for me. I just got to work really hard, and I did work really hard, and I still do work really hard. But I wasn't intentional about making connections, right? Those socials are like, yeah, instead of doing socials, let's just work harder on the work, that we needed to do here. And then what I realized later on was that that's not enough, right? So it's not enough to just work hard. You need to connect with people. You need to connect with people who can advise you. You need to connect with people who can open doors for you to be able to get to what you need to get to in life. And so I think about one lady in particular, Linda, and Linda was the one that spoke for me as a sponsor for me to land my first branch manager role because I was almost getting passed on for that role. And she went to what I like to call the powers that be and said, "Hey, this is your best guy. He's done this, he's done this, he's done that. I've watched him. He's ready. You should be the person that you should be going with here." And what I learned from that is you cannot succeed alone. Like you need a team of champions, you need a team of people to help you open those doors, but to also guide you into those doors as well. So that's one lesson that I can share today that has stood out for me in my career journey and continues to stand out for me as well. And I know in my interaction with many professionals around the world, that's an area as well that I see as an area of opportunity for people. Relationships matter.
Yeah, I think many leaders identify with that because leadership can be lonely at the top.
That's
And
right.
maybe you worked your way up there, but then you're alone at the top and you have no one to talk to. I think that's why I absolutely loved your book, The Power of Strategic Relationships. And not, and I think it because, the tagline is 7 champions who accelerate young professionals. But I think of myself who, you know, um, maybe stepped back, and now I need to step back in, and I've just forgotten who are those people to connect with. And not that the who is in here, well, not that the people's names are in here, but the who's, right? The sponsors, the mentors, the friends, the family, the like it's
Allies and
just
coaches.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah, and we forget that we need all those people.
that's right.
Because yes, we think we can do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that best principle. I think you live that. And I think was that, I mean, I feel like that's what inspired the book that you wrote.
That's exactly what inspired the
Yeah.
book in there, and so of course I know you've had the opportunity to read the book, so thank you for doing that. And so when you look at the central theme of the book, it's really from my story, but also the story of people that have had the opportunity to work with this last 20 years, coaching, mentoring them. And there is one common pattern, one common denominator that I see. It's the fact that when people are intentional about building what I sometimes call personal board of directors, right? It's a game changer. It's a game changer where at whatever stage anybody is in life. Now, there are some stages in our lives where maybe we're not the one directly benefiting from the relationship as we like to think about it. So you're more in the giver position, but it's really a win-win, right? And so I know that when I get to mentor people, the things I learn is remarkable, right? That the information I get from that is remarkable. And so we might be at it. So I have people that I'm mentoring, but I also have people that mentor me. So it's like a win-win, it's an exchange, and it goes on that way. And I think that that's the central message of the book. In like whether you're giving or you're at the receiving end, strategic relationship is a win-win, and it's something that we all need to continue to do because that's really what life is all about. How can we make impact in the life of other
Yes.
people?
Yeah. It's funny because I know I told you this story because I asked you if you knew this woman. She was following your book to a T. She asked me to mentor her. And she was following, and I'm reading it going, this is crazy. Like she didn't waste, she came with the questions. She was very respectful of my time. Like it just, and and when you say that they help you, she inspired me.
Mm,
When, just talking to her, and I walked away thinking, I can do this, something I was thinking of. And so I agree, as much as you need a mentor, it's great to mentor someone.
that's
So
right.
I
That's right.
love that. And
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah, and I'm going to come back to your book on another question, but right now I want to ask you about failures and mistakes, or if you call it failings, if you don't use the word. But we know we learn more. We learn more from our failures, mistakes, and our successes. So I'm wondering if you have one that you could share, and maybe what you learned from it.
I do have more than one. It depends on how much time we have, but I only share one. Your question reminds me of a book written by John Maxwell, who is someone I have great respect for and I love to follow. He wrote the book Failing Forward. And so as I think about that, the story that stands out is one of my first, I would say, leadership lessons and one of my failures in life, but which I've also learned from, and that's helped, being a guiding light really for me over the years. And it happened when I was about 9 years old. And I know it's weird, and I'm going back to when I was 9 years old, but that has stuck with me. So I want to share that story very quickly. And so, growing up, there was a day I approached a 12-year-old in our neighborhood, and this young boy, and I was 9, he was 12, so he was older than I was. But I approached him and I say, you know what? How about if we start plucking? It was kind of like apples, fruit is kind of like what we just called it. That was a general name at that time. I said, how about if we just pluck it off the tree and sell it to other kids in the neighborhood and do that? And then the question he asked was like, well, who's going to climb the tree? And I'm like, well, you're older than I am. You should be climbing the tree, but I'll do the selling and all of that. So we just stopped. Anyway, he was hesitant at first, but I was able to convince him, even as a 9-year-old, to say you should be, climbing a tree. And he did that. He agreed to doing that, and he did that. And then one day we went out. Unfortunately, he fell from the tree. And I was so scared. Actually, I thought he had died, and I didn't know what to do. I just ran away. Like I just went to hide somewhere. I mean, I was 9 years old. I was confused. I didn't know what I needed to do, and I could not put myself in a position where I could go back to go talk to him because I was just so scared I couldn't move past that. But what I learned from that lesson was, as a leader, you need to learn to stick with people. Taught me loyalty, right? So no matter what's going on, good, bad, ugly, stay with people, stick it out with people. I wish I had, stayed there, supported as much as I could, visited him every day. I wish I could have said that, but I didn't. I was just so scared. I didn't even know what to do. Of course, I knew that some adults were around and they were able to take care of him, got him to the hospital and all of that. But that taught me loyalty, and so that's very much shaped my leadership journey today. Where when I tell somebody I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there, right? And that's been a watchword for me, and that's something that shaped me um, over the years now. And so for me, I think that as a leader, we learn every day. Life is lived forward but understood backwards. So as we reflect on each day, because there are sometimes every day in my job, I know there are a lot of times with every day we're like, hey, I could have handled that conversation a little bit better, and then I take that lessons. So I'm not afraid to learn from my mistakes. As a matter of fact, I have a guiding principle in life, and my guiding principle is I want to get 1% better every day. If I can I tell my team all the time, I don't want to get better like 100% every day. My goal is 1%. And I said, hey, do you know why it's 1%? Because at the end of the year, if we've had 365 days, that's 365% if it's simple interest. Right? And then I always make a joke and I just say, hey, but if you feel like you're good at math, you can do the compounding, right? And when you figure out that compounding, let me know, right? So I'm throwing that out to our audience today. If you figure out the compounding of 1% every day for a year, whatever that is, you can let me know.
We talked about that this morning, being
Mhm.
1% better than yesterday.
That's right.
And the book we're reading is John Maxwell's The 360 Leader. That's where the discussion
Amazing.
happens. Very good book. So I've
Yeah,
written down Failing Forward. I'll have to look up that one as well.
that's
He's
good.
he's a great leadership writer. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So my next question is a little about we at Leader Impact, we want to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually. That is what we do as marketplace leaders. We want to increase impact. So would you be willing to share an example of how the spiritual makes a practical difference in your life as a leader?
Great question. Thank you, Lisa, for that question. I believe very much that faith and leadership for me is very connected. As a matter of fact, I don't think I can be a good leader without my faith as a solid foundation in there. And so I lean on my faith every day. I read my Bible every day. I pray every day. I met Jesus when I was 16, and I haven't looked back since. And I'm really proud because it's one of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life. And I'm that public about my faith as well. I really believe that everybody should get to know Jesus because it's a great thing, right? So how has that shaped my leadership from day to day in the professional world? What that means to me is, even when I'm about to make some major decisions, have to have a difficult conversation, just pausing to pray, pausing to reflect, and asking for God's help, asking for God's wisdom, and that's really helped me. Another example that I can share is during COVID, right? So we all know COVID. I know it feels like a lifetime ago, but I was working for a financial institution at the time, and I was branch manager at that time, and it was downtown Regina, and so this financial institution made a decision in order to serve customers not to close at all during COVID. So, which meant the branch manager, of course, he had to be at work every day. And so, a lot of days, I felt like a soldier fighting an invisible war going to work. I mean, I enjoyed the fact that there was no traffic on the road, so you could just leave home like, very quickly you get to work. I love that part of it. But some days felt heavy, especially when you start to think about, like, and those were early days of COVID. Nobody really knew what it was, but then you still had to show up to work. But one of the things that stood out to me at that period is that I had that sense of peace. I had that sense of tranquility within me, and it wasn't it wasn't peace that came from outside. It was inner peace, and I think that came from my faith and my walk with God and my relationship with God. And of course, we received God's mercies. My family was protected all through the period. Of course, we had to wear masks and do different things. So through all of that, I saw faith helping me, and such that I was also a voice of encouragement to other people as well, and say, hey, we're going to be fine. We're going to be okay. We don't know what it is yet, but take care of yourself, follow all of the rules, get vaccinated if you want to, and those kind of things in there. But making sure that I was a steady a leader for the team, and I think that I couldn't have done that without my faith in place.
Yeah. Who do you surround yourself with that keeps you in your faith? Because it's easy to, like who's in your circle?
I've got a lot of people in my circle. The other day, I was just I looked at an old picture of mine of when I was in the university, my first degree now, and it was the picture of myself and who I sometimes would call my school mother, but she was really my mentor, and she's still my mentor. Actually, she and her husband, they live in England, and both of them are they were my mentors then back in school, but they're still my mentors today, and they're spiritual mentors for me as well. I was a very new Christian when I got on campus. I remember they bought me my first study Bible, Dake's Bible, if you ever know what that is, in there, and I would pour through that. Actually, the reason they bought me that Bible was because she had one, and I borrowed it from her, and then I told her, whenever you need it, let me know, and I'll bring it to you. And so I guess she was getting to a point where she felt like I need my Bible, and so they just decided on one of my birthdays, and then they bought me one. I was like, oh my God, this is the best gift ever, and I still have that Bible, and I cherish it so much in there. So I surround myself with people like that, and they've been my mentors for over 20 years. And I've had different times in my life where I had to lean on that relationship. Of course, here in Regina as well, I have a few other, spiritual leaders that are my mentors. Of course, the pastor of my church, local church here in Regina that I go to, but I also have other people as well who are speaking to my life as well, and I connect with them regularly. They help me stay grounded. Of course, there are things that I need to do myself as well. I talked about, getting in my Bible every day, praying, as someone who's married as well, doing that with my wife, but also doing it with my family as well. So every night we have a devotional time as a family where we have great discussion, but also pause to pray as well. So all of those things have helped me stay grounded. But I am intentional about my inner circle. Now, I'm a social butterfly. I love to meet people. I love to meet new people. And so for me, I'm always meeting people. I'm always connecting with people. But I've learned the power of the inner circle. And I talked about this in my book as well, that find your inner circle. That's really, really important, because for someone who is extroverted like me, and I struggled with this for a number of years until recently, is that I could meet people, connect with them, meet another group of people, connect with them. But then I don't take it further to get to really know them and get really close to people. And so in the process of me writing the book, that's something I had to be intentional about, because I'm like, you can't write about this if you haven't lived it. And so now I've been working really hard on that. And now I have people in my inner circle who have not only helped me in the area of faith, but even other areas of my life as well. So I believe strongly in not just having one mentor, have a network of mentors. So I have a network of mentors for my spiritual life. I have a network of mentors professionally. When it comes to marriage, I have a network of mentors. Even for my finances, even though I'm a banker and I'm in the industry, I have a network of mentors that I follow, in that space as well. I think it just enriches our lives. It gives a lot of different perspectives as you work in life in that regard.
Oh, great answer. I love it. And that's why I think I loved your book.
Thank you. Thank
Really
you.
explain that.
Buy the book. Buy the book if you're listening.
Buy the book. Yeah. So I'm going to go to, I have been loving talking about legacy. And I have been pulled in to moderate panels on legacy. And on this question, I'm going to ask you about your legacy. In your book, first, you talk about the legacy question. What do you want to be remembered for? And
That's
you
right.
talk all about it and our purpose and our legacy. And I loved it. So my question for you is, as you continue to move through this journey, um, your own journey, have you considered what you want your faith legacy to be when you leave this world?
I have, and that's a great question. So, when I think about that, I shared the story about my dad earlier, how he passed away suddenly. He was 36 years old when he passed away. Now I'm well over 36 now, and so that his story has helped me also had a lot of time to think about my own life as well. Now, this is the way I approach legacy, and I talked about this even in my book as well. It is that you cannot really start to truly answer the legacy question if you haven't answered the purpose and the identity question. And here is what I mean. When it comes to the issue of identity, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, who am I? And who am I really? Not what is your name, not what do you do for the bank, but who are you really? What is your identity? Like being able to answer that question, I think is really, really important. Now, for me, my identity is grounded in my values, which is shaped by my Christian faith. So I know who I am. I am who God says I am, and I'm very proud of that. And that keeps me grounded because I've discovered, who I am that way. And then, of course, the next step is to then think about purpose, right? Why am I here on earth? I know I'm not here by accident, and I know our listeners, you're not here by accident. God has a purpose for your life. We all have a God-given purpose, and so finding it, right, changes the game for you. And it is when you've found these two things, then you can start to talk about legacy. So for me personally, I've come to discover my life's purpose is helping others maximize their potentials and be all that God has created them to be. Now, this shapes how I work. This shapes who I connect with. This shapes my values. This shapes a whole lot of things. Even shapes where I live now too. I have a lot of opportunities to move cities and do different things. But I'm like, hey, this is where I believe God wants me to be now, and this is what I need to be doing right now. And so I'd rather do that and do it joyfully as well in that space. Now, as I've thought about my legacy, I'm always reminded, especially when it comes to my faith legacy, about the story of King David. And he says here, and you may not know, but I'm also a preacher as well. So, but I'm trying hard not to start quoting scriptures here. But he does say in my favorite book that he served his generation. He served God's purpose in his generation. And so I'm hoping to leave that legacy as well of serving God's purpose in my generation, such that the people that I've had the opportunity to connect with, they can truly say that, it was a man that loved. It was a man that led really well. It was a man that really cared, that impacted people. And so for me, I keep that in mind. And so my goal every day is that when I meet somebody, I want to leave them better than I met them. That's what I want to be remembered for, right? Making an impact in people's life, in how I lead, in how I love people, in how I connect with people. That's a legacy that I hope to leave, on that day when I disappear, whether by rapture or by death, right? So, of course, I plan to live longer than King David did. But until that time, I want to continue to live each day intentionally because the time is short and we really need to continue to maximize the time that we have while we're here. And the best way to do that is to invest in other people. I view success from the lens of other people. And so every day I have to invest in other people is a great day for me.
Oh, it's a great day for me, Wally.
Mhm.
You've made a difference in my life.
Thank
You're
you.
leaving me better.
Thank you.
My last question for you is, what brings you the greatest joy?
That's a very deep question. And thinking about what gives me grace joy. Let me share this story. So Monday, October 6th. So today is October 8th, right? Um, a colleague of mine at work sent me a note and said, "Hey, you won't believe it. My son started working." and his son had not been able to walk for a couple of years now. Now, it's such a sad, touching story because this friend of mine, or this colleague of mine, the wife had just passed away. The wife was just 43 years old, and this happened last month in September. Now, that happened in the middle of their son playing basketball, had an injury, 14-year old, and it just happened to be that he hasn't been able to work for a couple of years. And so I decided to visit their house. We went to their house, and so when we were about to leave, he said, I was with one other person there, and said, "Would you guys pray just for my son? It's my desire to have my son walk, right?" And this other person I was with was much older than me, and so she prayed first, and as she was wrapping up, I just felt a leading also to pray. And so I began to pray. I held his legs. I had the leading for us to anoint his legs. And so I asked them if they had some kind of oil and that we could use. And so they brought some, and we prayed over the son. And I truly, really believe that he was healed that day. And we held him up and tried to kind of move him around a little bit. And then that episode went, only for me to get that message that I got from him, 2, 3 weeks after we prayed, to say, "Hey, they got home," and then he started working. And I was like, wow, stories like that brings me joy, right? There is nothing more joyful to me than that, right? So whether it's the story of the life of the 14-year-old that was touched, or the father who was just recently going through a loss, but a bit of joy. He was telling me how tears of joy, he had tears of joy, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Or when I come into professional circle of people that get promoted because of conversation that we had, or like today, just before I came on the show today, somebody wanted me to be a reference for them, and so I did that reference, spoke, and I hope they get the job, right? Those are the moments that gives me joy, when I'm able to pour into others, when I'm able to help other people, whether at work or they're outside of work. Those are the moments that gives me great joy. And of course, my connection with my family as well, my wife, my kids, those moments that we spend together, it's really great because it doesn't really matter how much money you make in life. When you're by your deathbed, you're not going to say, "Oh, guys, so how much is in my account right now? Bring me all the money." It's really your loved ones. That's really what's going to matter. The people that you impacted, the lives that you touched. That's really what's going to count. So for me, what gives me the greatest joy is seeing lives change, is seeing lives transform, whether it's spiritually, whether it's professionally, whether it's financially, whatever way it means that I can help people. When I see people's life changed, that gives me joy.
Oh, Wally, it has been a fabulous 33 minutes with you. I've really enjoyed. I've loved your book, and just hearing a little bit more about you. And how did I miss that you were a preacher? It is not in your bio.
I know. I wasn't sure if I should have that in there or not, but I've got a few messages on YouTube actually from a church that we go to here. It's Gateway Church. I was actually speaking on Sunday at two of our services there, and I know you interviewed Carol Lafayette Boyd.
Oh,
Remember what that is?
yes.
We go to the same church, yeah, and I know she was on church on Sunday. So, Carol, I saw you at church. You were at church. Right. So yeah, so I get to support our pastor, sometimes speaking in there as well. And of course I do get invited to other places as well to bring God's word, sometimes in a professional circle, but also just playing, talking about God's word and helping people, um, depending on wherever they are, right? It's all about adding value to people, and bringing God's goodness to people, really.
I love it. Thank you, Wally. So not only can we find you on YouTube, where else can we find you if any of our listeners or viewers want to connect with you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, probably the easiest way to connect with me. LinkedIn, just search my name, Wale Adebogun. It would come up. I also have a website, waleadebogun.com. So easy to connect with me through that as well. Of course, I'm on social media handles as well. So you can just even Google the name Wale Adebogun. You'll get a lot of information from that, and you'll be able to connect with me that way. And I look forward to connecting. I love meeting new people and talking about relationships and leadership. And that's something I'm really passionate about. So I look forward to connecting.
Yeah. And if the people Google the power of strategic relationships, Wale, and it's spelled Wale, they'll find you there on Amazon, like I did.
That's right.
Yes. Well, Wale, thank you again for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you again. I would just say finally, Lisa, you and your team, you're doing a great job and keep doing that. I was just listening to one of your previous conversation. You were talking about advice you received from one of your uncles that said, retire into something, right? Yes. So I was listening to that episode there. So I said that to say that you've been making a great impact in our community. Please keep doing that, because life is really all about, the lives that we touch, right? And so that's what we should all be about as leaders. Leadership is influence and influencing people for the better. And so thank you for that. And that's my goal, to continue to do that as well, as long as I have breath.
Oh, my cheeks hurt from smiling. Thank you. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. And to all our viewers, if you're part of Leader Impact, you can discuss or share this podcast with your group. And if you are not yet part of Leader Impact, would like to find out more and grow your leadership, find our podcast page on our website at leaderimpact.ca. And you can also check out groups available in Canada at leaderimpact.ca. Or if you're listening from anywhere else in the world, check out leaderimpact.com or get in touch with us by email, info@leaderimpact.ca, and we will connect you. And if you like this podcast, please leave us a comment, give us a rating or a review. This will help other global leaders find our podcast. Thank you for engaging with us. And remember, impact starts with you.